Brad Crawford now with CBS Sports. What's up, brother?
Good to see you, man.
That's it, Brad. We're done with the Saturdays of no football, man. Welcome back.
Yeah, Iowa State, Kansas State kicks it off Saturday. We've got the U.S. Open in New York. Exciting time for sports fans.
Oh, so you're going to be dual TVing with the football and the tennis.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about Cyclones Wildcats, to be honest. Week one for me starts the following weekend.
Okay. On that note, I saw your retweet of Luganville saying the quarterbacks in the Big 12, top to bottom, better than those in the SEC. Agree? Disagree?
I don't know about that. Maybe they've proven more heading into 2025. But with Sellers and Arch Manning, I expect him to be a Heisman finalist. And Austin Simmons at Ole Miss. You've got Taylor Green, underrated at Arkansas. I think top to bottom, the SEC might be better than the Big 12. By the way, nobody's talking about Blake Shapen at Mississippi State.
No.
He started off really well last season over 4 games before he got hurt. So Mississippi State over Arizona State is my huge week 2 upset.
You know, I don't know that you're wrong about that, Brad.
Game, Starkville, blackout. It just sets up Arizona State overlooking Mississippi State based on last season. It just it sets up right, man.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I mentioned that last week to Peter Burns. Mike Morgan and I have talked about that as well. I don't think that I'm not trying to downplay what you said at all. I don't think that's that far out on a limb, to be honest. I don't think they're going to get blown out. And if you get 1 or 2 things that go your way, yeah, you could see more cowbell.
Jeff Levy needing a signature win. Cam Scatabo no longer at Arizona State. Look, they bring back 16 starters, but when you take away the guy that was getting 25 to 30 carries, maybe things change, at least early in the season while the Sun Devils work things out.
Okay, on the flip side of that, if that happens, I'm going to be watching Kansas this week because I want to see them against Missouri in week 2. General feel on that game.
Kansas-Missouri is one of the more underrated rivalries in college football. It needs to be played annually, in my opinion. I've got a good friend who lives near Lawrence, and, I mean, he just despises Missouri. He has asked me all off season, are the Gamecocks going to go to Missouri and beat them this season? You know, I don't know the answer to that. But Jalen Daniels, when he's fully healthy, he's one of the best dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks in college football. That's certainly a losable game for Missouri. And Kansas, man, is one of those 6 or 7 teams that has a legit shot at winning the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't know anything about what they did in the portal. I do know that they lost a lot of really talented football players on the offensive side of the football, both up front and the playmakers, but you mentioned that Daniels returns. I agree with that 100%. I think Daniels is one of the more underrated and less talked about QBs that can really play. Probably has a career in the NFL. Might be a Charlie Whitehurst type career, but at least you get paid. But I just don't know what surrounds him. And so I don't know, Brad. If they added a couple guys, maybe they go out, and that would be an upset over Missouri, correct? That'd be an upset.
I think it would. I mean, right now, Kansas likes what it has at quarterback more than Missouri does because Eli Drinkwitz hasn't even named his starter yet, and here we are a week and a half before the opening game.
What's going on at Auburn?
Oh, man, what a wild 72 hours. From claiming national titles to saying he's going to play 3 quarterbacks. Look, I spoke to a source yesterday on the planes who told me there's absolutely no chance, that was a quote, that Hugh Freeze plays Ashton Daniels, Jackson Arnold, and Deuce Knight in the opening game at Baylor. I don't think he will. He said that was Hugh Freeze being Hugh Freeze and not thinking before he speaks. That was kind of funny to hear an Auburn guy say that. But Jackson Arnold's a guy for the Tigers. Having said that, I think the leash is short with him. And if he plays bad, maybe the first half against Baylor, we will see another quarterback play the second half. Last year, Peyton Thorne got way too much time under Hugh Freeze, and it sort of backfired a bit. They won't be so long lasting at the quarterback spot this year because they got 3 guys they like.
What would that tell you about Jackson Arnold?
That the recruiting hype of him being a 5-star and top player a couple of years ago just fell flat. And maybe he doesn't have it all. I mean, Jackson Arnold has said throughout the offseason that, Hugh Freeze puts him in position to kind of make plays and kind of where he's comfortable at. We didn't hear that much at Oklahoma. He kind of lost his job too. midseason to a true freshman before getting it back. So this is a prove-it year for Jackson Arnold. Him and Carson Beck at Miami are two guys who are kind of boom or bust for me from the portal.
What do you think about Carson Beck at Miami?
I think he's going to have a much better year in 2025 than he had in 2024. He's still first-round talent to me. Made a lot of mistakes last year. Had to make up for Georgia's no-run game and maybe do too much with his arm. I think Miami has better backs this fall. And then with Shannon Dawson's spread offense, I think that's better than that pro-style look that Carson Beck was kind of stuck in under Mike Bobo.
Okay. On that note, you mentioned Bobo and his system there. I will once again, I don't know about remind, but mention that Gunnar Stockton committed to Mike Bobo at South Carolina. These two have been tied to the hip for over 5 years, Brad. If there's anybody that has studied the Mike Bobo system and knows the Mike Bobo system, but just hasn't had a chance to go out and try to execute it yet, clearly it's Gunnar Stockton. So do you anticipate a more productive quarterback position with Gunnar Stockton at the helm in Athens than what Carson Beck brought to that system last year?
If Georgia doesn't have a running game to speak of like last season, I think it was the worst in Kirby Smart's 9 years there in Athens, then they're setting up Gunnar Stockton to fail. By the way, the offensive line starts 4 new guys as well. They lost a ton of talent up front. So not only do you have to protect your new first-year starting quarterback, you got to be able to run the ball too and put him in good situations. So if Georgia's offensive line can't protect Gunnar Stockton and they can't run the ball, probably going to be a long year at that position, and we might see multiple quarterbacks between the hedges.
I asked Peter Burns last week in this exact spot right here on the air. It is November the 1st. Who is your disappointment in the SEC? And he said the Georgia Bulldogs. He said he thinks they could lose a couple of games by the time they are playing in Jacksonville against the Gators on that date, the first day of November. Your thoughts? Disagree, agree, and why?
For me, it's Texas A&M. I haven't been high on them throughout the offseason, despite a pretty solid portal class. They loaded up on receiver, but I don't know if Marcel Reed is a top 10 player at the quarterback spot for A&M. They need production from Marcel Reed, not just with his legs, but his arm. And Texas A&M started out last season elite. I mean, top 15, had a chance to sort of control its own destiny in the playoff race, then lost to South Carolina, stumbled down the stretch. Reed made some mistakes. Really, after his debut against LSU in that second half, when he came in for Connor Weidman, when he became the starter, there were some issues offensively for A&M. And despite spending all that money in the portal this offseason, A&M's a team that I think of those 9 ranked in the preseason probably finishes the year outside of the top 25.
Okay. And you're saying that's because of the offense, right? What about the defense?
Well, Shamar Stewart was a man wrecker. I mean, he didn't have it in the tackles for loss and sack department, but he's kind of one of those guys who, when he wasn't showing up in the box score, he was getting double teamed. He made offenses go away from his side. Texas A&M did lose a pretty good bit on defense. I think there's 5 new starters there on that side of the ball, but I think they're okay there. For me, it's can Marcel Reed direct that offense? Will Le'Veon Moss at running back and Reuben Owens are those 2 guys who can kind of combine for 16 to 1,800 yards, because A&M cannot be one-dimensional. It's a team that has to be able to throw it and run the football.
Yeah, A&M, every year it seems like they have expectations, and every year they win 7 or 8 games.
Yeah, that's about where they fall.
Okay. Carolina goes on November the 15th to College Station. That is coming off of 3 consecutive road games in the SEC for the Aggies. They go to Arkansas, they go to LSU, they go to Missouri. Who do you think they are when South Carolina arrives?
I think it's somewhere a 500 level team, maybe a team needing to beat South Carolina to stay inside the top 25. This is the one year, JB, where I like the Gamecocks' chances going to College Station. Kyle Field is 100,000 plus. Obviously, South Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, but has not won there ever. 0-4 maybe, 0-5.
Been close.
Yeah, and a lot of first half showings from the Gamecocks, they've just gotten these deep multi-touchdown holes and haven't recovered. So I think South Carolina, that's a road game that the Gamecocks do win this season. But where this year is defined for South Carolina is, how they performed previously against LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma. That's the 3-game set for me that will determine if this team's a playoff team or not.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. This front five for the Gamecocks, Brad. Now that this is the last time we're going to have you before we'll turn our attention to Columbia now.
Yep.
Before the season gets going with Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, at Missouri, and Kentucky. I mentioned yesterday to Mike Morgan. Aside from Missouri, I do think it is the second easiest schedule in the SEC when it pertains to the front five games, as in they have the most winnable first five games other than Missouri.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Very capable hot start team for sure.
Yeah. I don't want the word easy. I feel like I need to be careful using that because the coaches don't like to hear that. It's not easy in this league. And so I need to refrain. That was probably not a good way to say it. But as far as who we think the Gamecocks are versus who their opponents are in those first five games, I think it's the most winnable 5-game stretch to open the season for anybody in the SEC other than the Tigers, right?
Sure. I mean, maybe you'd rather play Virginia and Atlanta and Mississippi State at home versus Vanderbilt, but the schedule sets up for some big time wins early. South Carolina can start the SEC schedule up with a win over the Commodores. I think that's 16 straight. So if you're a Gamecock fan, you feel pretty confident about that game. I will say Diego Pavia he believes the Commodores are a national title contender. So if that kind of team comes into Williams-Brice Stadium, then maybe it's worrisome.
I'm going to ask Steven Garcia about that coming up here in just a little bit. All right, Virginia Tech. You can't win the first five unless you win the first one. And next weekend, what concerns you in that game for South Carolina versus the Hokies?
Virginia Tech's quarterback is athletic. Gamecocks over the years, every now and then, have had trouble containing athletic quarterbacks. Now, I feel that even though South Carolina's depth on the defensive line has to be proven a bit during the first month of the season, I think South Carolina will be able to generate a pass rush in that game. We can kind of get the Virginia Tech quarterback into some situations where maybe he makes a mistake or two. I think Lenora Sellers will play well in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's a great venue to watch a game for anybody who might be heading there. And unlike most season openers, I don't think South Carolina fans should be too worried about this game. Normally, I go with the opposition plus the points in the season opener because the Gamecocks seem to stub their toe a little bit early in the season, but not this time around. This team is top 15 preseason for a reason. Virginia Tech and Brent Pry are heading in the opposite direction, and they've got Vanderbilt the following week. So there's a good chance the Hokies start off 0-2 this season.
For what it's worth, I really like Brent Pry. He's a very likable guy.
Yeah, he's not going to last there, though.
No, I hope he has a great year after game one for Virginia Tech. Shane Beamer is, this is not going to be popular in Gamecock country. That's fine, but it's true. He's got a little bit of Dabo Swinney in him, right, Brad? He's got a little bit of Dabo Swinney. What did I hear? Okay, they don't believe in you. There are AP voters out there that believe in this team. We know that. They're number 13 in the country. There are the coaches polls, which is basically a bunch of SIDs. And then there are some lists, and the notable names are on them. Sellers, Stewart, Kilgore, kind of stops there. But then there's a lot of other people, a lot of big national brands who don't have South Carolina in the preseason top 25. There's a lot of folks who think that they're just another 7-5 team. They have them losing to the traditional powers of the league, et cetera, et cetera. I've mentioned this twice this week. This is the third time that I'm going to mention this, but a different voice on the other end. I think that plays really, really well into Shane Beamer and the type of messages he likes to give his football team before they trot out onto the field.
Yeah, he seems to like, he doesn't want the benefit of the doubt. He wants the Gamecocks to be blasted nationally and be outside a lot of top tens, even unranked according to Reese Davis and Brett McMurphy. Not that I've been tracking any names, but I will say this, man. I think South Carolina is closer to being a 7-5 team in late November than an 11-1 team, only because of scheduling. This is not a schedule conducive to, yellow brick road to the playoff. Now in the SEC, with a schedule this elite, you can lose a couple of games, still make the playoff. I think this is the first year actually that we're going to have an SEC program finish 9-3 and get to the playoff. Now, will that be South Carolina or LSU or Alabama? I don't know yet, but I do think 9 might be the magic number for this team if it has its sights set on the playoff. But right now, I can see some of the national media is worried with the Gamecocks, some of the personnel issues on defense, maybe some unknowns at wide receiver, a lot of first-year guys stepping up. But, I mean, I've got South Carolina. I think I had them 8-4, 7-5, somewhere in that range. But that opening month game against Missouri is huge to me. If they go to LSU 5-0, there's a legitimate shot this team's going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I agree with that. Certainly. The thing about Shane Beamer is 13-4 in November, Brad. His teams get better as the season goes along. The key is to be better when the season begins. October hasn't exactly been kind to Shane in his career. 5-8 in that month, and 9-8 in September. So to your point there, if they're off to a good start, the trend in the history of him as the head coach of this program says they're only getting better regardless of competition. They've beaten really good teams in November.
Sure. And like you said earlier in the show, I mean, this is the first time in several years that the first quarter, the first half of the season has a bunch of winnable games based on the Gamecocks is too deep versus what they're going to face. So Vandy game in the SEC home opener is huge. I know a lot of us, myself included, are probably overlooking that game and expect Vandy to be a 5-7, 6-6 team. But I know in Nashville, a lot of those folks around that program are super confident heading to South Carolina. They believe this is a year that the Doors could snap the streak and beat the Gamecocks. I don't see it happening, but obviously that's a game to watch and not overlook with that Missouri trip looming the next week.
Why do you think Diego Pavia on that Bussin' with the Boys segment said it was South Carolina as the game that was circled for him?
Maybe
because they beat him the worst?
Comparison, maybe. Yeah, I mean, last season game was completely dominated by the Gamecocks. But to be honest, I mean, Diego Pavia, the last 4 weeks of the season, I think Vandy was 1-3, lost all 3 games against SEC teams. I mean, he looked pretty human. The last, like defenses and defensive coordinators, Clayton White especially, they seem to figure out Diego Pavia from that 5 or 6 week, top of college football that he had when he beat Bama and played well against Texas. Those kind of starts. Diego Pavia, the blueprint was out on how to stop Vanderbilt, and it starts with stopping their quarterback. So it'll be interesting to me to see if he has a good a year in 2025 as he had last fall.
Yeah, and they just didn't have the depth to be able to sustain getting nicked up and bang ups. So it just wasn't there. It was a great story, but they just didn't have the players that the other teams in this league do. All right, final couple of predictions from me, and we're going to get you out of here, if you don't mind. I don't know if you have some of this stuff coming out. If you do, just plead the fifth, and then we'll read about it. Who wins the SEC?
Texas. Steve Sarkisian has the best roster. I think Arch Manning is a Heisman finalist, and they will win in Atlanta and be the top seed in the playoff.
Who do they play in Atlanta?
Alabama. Alabama's another team that I'm taking to be in the playoff. I don't think Ty Simpson is necessarily like the guy who's going to beat Georgia and Texas and all these other good teams on Bama's schedule, but he's not going to mess it up. And there were times the last couple of years where Jalen Milroe on 3rd and long, you just knew, just tackle him and you can get Bama to punt. So I think they're better suited from a passing standpoint with Ty Simpson back there.
So you're saying that you think Ty Simpson will end up going the distance as the starter?
I think he will.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
How many SEC teams are in the playoff?
4. Texas, Alabama, LSU, and man, that 4th team, I don't know. It's between Georgia, it's between South Carolina. It's tough. But Georgia's going to be a disappointment if it doesn't make the playoff, and there's a good chance that Georgia will not be in the playoff.
Yeah, I mentioned last week, you want to see the SEC secede from the College Football Union. They kept a 9-3 Bama out last year. Keep a 9-3 Georgia out this year.
Oh, Kirby will lose his mind, wouldn't he?
And let's see what happens. And you have South Carolina currently on your predictions going where?
7-5 overall.
I mean, I'm sorry, postseason.
Postseason, rely Quest Bowl. Okay. I do think if Gamecocks get to 8 wins, maybe the Citrus Bowl again, and then 9 wins, like I said, this schedule, depending on where the wins and losses come, if they're able to beat 3 top 15 teams and finish 9-3, I do think the committee is going to take last year into consideration and then look at the Gamecocks in a favorable light this fall if they get 9 wins.
If they start 5-0, They sure don't want to finish 2-5. That's for sure. At 7-5, but if they start 5-0, I'm with you. I think that they will be.
In chat saying that Ty Simpson's the game manager. Yeah, he actually reminds me a lot of like a Jake Coker. He's not as good as AJ McCarron, but if he's Blake Sims or Jake Coker, Bama will be fine.
Or like Brody Croyle, who tried to steal my girlfriend in 2005.
Did he? Wow.
Yes, yeah. She was attending the University of Alabama. I met him at a party. He was flirting with her. There was nothing I could do about it. He was taller.
Bama quarterback, man. Come on.
I mean, yeah, he did not, for what it's worth. I won. Our relationship was strong in the time being.
You end up marrying that girlfriend or no?
No.
Okay, all right.
But we did make it. We made it past Brody Croyle. For what it's worth. Nice guy. Very handsome. Much better looking than me. All right, Brad, thank you. I know you got to go. You got a lot of work to do. CBS Sports, Brad Crawford. Follow him on Twitter. We'll have you back probably maybe a few weeks into the season. Kind of reassess where everything is, but we always love getting you on here to get your opinion and inside information on college football, man. Thanks so much. Hope your family's well, brother.
Yeah, man. Safe travels to ATL.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. There you go. Brad Crawford with CBS.